Hi, I'm Alexandra Urish. I'm a senior and an English major here at AUM, and I'm here with
Dr. Elizabeth Woodworth. I'm an associate professor in the English and Philosophy department.
And I'm Kelly DePace. I'm a senior majoring in English and History.
And we're going to talk about our experience with AUM Study Abroad.
One of the most amazing things that I found with study abroad is that the conversation between professors and students doesn't need to end. Usually we get excited about a topic and then boom, class is over. With study abroad, we can start a conversation at breakfast, go see something relevant to the readings that we've done, and continue our conversation throughout the day and over many days. I think that kind of learning experience was really surprising to me the first time I traveled with students, and I frankly just love it. What do you guys think? Was that something that you found was
It definitely helps
special?
to cement the things that you're learning, because that way you can talk about them for a long period of time, and especially when you get to go someplace and be where you are learning about, to see that these things are real. It's not just something in a textbook, it's not just something even in a novel or a historical document, that it's a real place where people actually lived and we get a chance to live it ourselves, and it's perfectly wonderful.
That's something I've definitely noticed about studying abroad is that, or traveling at all, is nothing's ever what you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's complete. It's never quite what you think it is. Oh, that's what's kind of beautiful about it. And I think when you're in the place that you're studying, you can experience it. Clearly, you can experience it firsthand. But there's not the pressure to cram in. You know, we're cramming in words. We're doing tests. We're writing papers. But you can actually just stop for a moment and be where you are. And you get so much more from that. It really enhances the whole experience.
Can you guys think of a moment that just stands out from the last study abroad trip that we were all on together in England? Was there a thing you did or one event that was just shockingly better than any others, that is, when you think of the trip to Oxford, England, that's the thing you think of first?
For one thing, definitely visiting the Kilns, the home of C.S. Lewis, and getting to go to the place where he lived and where he worked makes you really appreciate even more what it meant for him as a scholar, as an author. It really allows you to connect personally with who he was and the things that he was doing, and to think about the people who were important in his life as well.
Yeah.
And to really have the experience of what it is to be a writer in community, because we got to do things together in those places.
Yeah, and we got to see his
Exciting.
bathtub.
Yes,
That was so cool. The
He's a real
bathtub, the bathtub where he took a bath.
I think I have two major moments that really stuck with me, and one was sitting in front of the Radcliffe camera, a part of the Bodleian Library, right in the center of Oxford, just kind of sitting across from it, in front of University Church
Yeah.
St. Mary's, and just feel being surrounded by Oxford, because it's right in the area where all of the original architecture is, so it really feels like what I always thought Oxford was from seeing it on television and movies and reading about it. I kind of had an image of Oxford, and I always wanted to go there, and that's where it really felt like it. I mean, there were other parts of, Oxford felt like Oxford, but there was sitting in front of the Radcliffe camera, just being kind of on the cobblestone and taking it all in, and one of the trademark architectural pieces of Oxford. And my second one was sitting along the bank of the stream that runs next to the botanical gardens.
The Cherwell.
The Cherwell.
Yeah.
The Cherwell, River Cherwell. Sitting on the bank of it and just looking at the way the leaves kind of, sort of vine leaves, be right on the bank, kind of falling into the water, and seeing the ducks and things, and just realizing it was the exact stream from Through the Looking Glass. That is exactly the way Lewis Carroll had written it, and I knew that he he enjoyed the botanical gardens. He was a big fan of the botanical gardens. Spent time there, just like Tolkien did as well. And so that was when I realized not just that was a thing. I started to think about all of these places, and things like trees, especially, Tolkien, that were in these books that we were reading, C.S. Lewis's Narnia and in Lord of the Rings, and even in Alice in Wonderland and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It's all there. So we're in Wonderland, we're in Narnia, we're in Middle Earth. It's all kind of there.
And Gaudy Night and Instance of Finger Post, and I'm just on and on and on. I think that's one of the things that I love about studying in England specifically for me, because British Lit is, one of my areas. I love feeling as if, not feeling as if, actually doing it. Walking on the same stones, the same streets that the characters walked, that the authors walked, that historical figures passed over. It is just amazing to me. And when you think about Oxford being, 1,100 years old or something like that, all the thousands and thousands of students and professors who punted on the Cherwell, just like we did, probably a lot better than we did. Yes. Let's not mention the time I hit Kelly in the head with a punting pole.
But I nearly repeated. Very close.
Almost. But I think there are those. We could probably come up with 5 or 6 moments that were just truly amazing. I know I have 2. One is when a bunch of us had lunch at the White Horse, and then we wandered over to Wadham College, and we just splattered. I don't know how. We walked into the gardens at Wadham College. It's like we almost collapsed, and our bags and our shoes and our glasses flew everywhere. We just we're all just sleeping, and it was just wonderful. And I don't know if you remember hearing, Alexander, but there were some tourists, I think, from Japan.
Yeah,
and I could hear them talking, and I could hear their camera clicking, and I know they were taking pictures of us.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I remember seeing them. They came over and were taking pictures.
Yeah.
It became a part of Oxford.
Yeah. And then I remember, Kelly, you and I walking over to the Victoria and Albert Museum through Hyde Park that day, and sitting on the bench for, it must have been 15 or 20 minutes, just staring at the Albert Memorial. And it was breathtaking to see it in person. I'd seen it before, but to share that, I think with a student was so special, because it's so much bigger than you can imagine.
So much more grand.
If you see pictures of it, it's like, this big. But to see it, it's massive and such a monument to that period and to the way that Victoria felt about Albert. Those were a couple of moments that really stuck out for me this last time.
By the way, though, when we were at Wadham College, I don't know if anybody else noticed that at one point the Wadham College choir, they were singing, and at one point they sang Pharrell's "Happy," it was just so odd.
So bizarre.
Yeah, it was hilarious because they're gorgeous, and we've been in this kind of great academic kind of upper crust, straight bow tie kind of place, and then just to hear that coming out perfectly.
And I think the other thing that I love about study abroad is the way that we get to know our colleagues and our students. We never have time for that kind of friendship or gathering during the school year, because we have jobs, we have family, we have homework, more books to read, more papers to write, conferences to attend, administrative meetings, paperwork to fill out, and I could go on. If I had 5 more hands, I could go on. And there we get to hang out and have lunch and talk, and we talk when we walk from place to place, and we get to talk with one another when we're on a bus for an hour and when we're hanging out at the airport, and it's just so different than a regular education, face-to-face, in the classroom experience. But also as a professor, getting to work with Professor Matt Jordan. He's in the philosophy part of the English and philosophy department. What a joy to be able to travel with a colleague and get to know his work and find connections between the kinds of scholarship he does and the kind of work that I do. You don't get to do that when you're here and you have your day job.
And that definitely, that was something I was thinking about before, that really changes how we interact. Well, clearly it changes how we interact when we get back, but it affects our education in a really positive way, because we're so, there's so much more, I don't know, it's comfort or just a closer acquaintance.
Engagement,
Yeah.
conversation, collaboration.
And so,
Connection.
we can come up with ideas, we can, stop and chat, and I can talk to you about some, have some sort of thing that I want to be working on, and need some advice, that maybe I wouldn't think to ask another professor about, that I just haven't interacted with that much. The benefits are just multiple. It just kind of keeps.
Well, I think it makes teachers better teachers too, because I learn so much from my students, and it makes me rethink how I want to approach a topic the next time I teach it. And sometimes I don't have that time to reflect, and I don't have time to hear back from my students in that kind of detailed way, because again, it's like this, death march. No, it's a death race to the finish and finals week. And it's Luke Skywalker at the end of the first Star Wars. Focus, what's that? Stay on target, stay on target. And we can't focus on the reflective part. We don't have time to really get students' opinions about the readings. There's not that kind of sustained thinking that happens during the semester. You really are jumping through a lot of hoops, and when you're someplace all day, over multiple days, you really have a chance to think and grow together. And I think it really improves the possibility for lifelong learning.
Well, I know that for me as a student, it makes it much easier to not look at the coursework as just checklist.
Right.
Instead, I can now come back and look at my other classes and try to picture them even as an experience, and how I am interacting with my fellow classmates and professors, and not just say, I'm not just doing this because it's on the syllabus. I'm doing this because I really want to learn it. I want to become a part of it as much as possible. And it's much easier to do that in study abroad, but the experience of study abroad, I think, has helped me look at other classes in that same way, to expect just as much out of it, because I know how good it can be now.
Well, and the food.
Oh yeah.
I think, one of the things that we don't talk about a whole lot in study abroad is eating.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that you're educating your whole person when you're studying abroad, because you're eating food that you normally don't eat. You're trying new things, and sometimes they're amazing, and sometimes maybe they're a little troublesome. But I think that's one.
Sometimes they're Marmite.
That's true.
At least it wasn't jelly eel.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of eel. I'm kind of a semi-fan of Marmite, though. Go figure.
Okay.
So, but that's a thing that I don't know that I've ever really talked about with students, but it's a part that I think really makes a huge difference, is to eat your way around the world, is to work with another culture in a really visceral sense. It's not enough to just see where people live or to visit, but you need to eat the food that they eat.
Very much like they live.
Yeah,
Eating is number one.
instead of going to McDonald's or Burger King, eat whatever is local, and who knows.
Try to
what
find
amazing.
the slowest, quietest place off
Yeah.
off the main tourist road too, because especially in these short-term study abroad trips, it can be very difficult to really learn the culture, because what you learn about it, and I heard people say this before, if you're there for a month or a semester, the long-term learning of a culture, it takes a while to break into the many layers, and so you may have an impression, you get an impression when you go there for, say, a week, 2 weeks, but especially if you're going to all these tourist places and not kind of getting off of the main path, it can be difficult to really understand it. And so when you dig out places like that, especially because, we're doing a lot of touring, and not all of it is touristy touring. It's we're going to houses of authors and colleges and academic touring, I guess, literary touring.
Yeah.
And that's great. But we crowd so much of that in, which is wonderful. We learn so much. You'd be surprised how much you learn in a short period of time. It's crazy when you think back about how many things you did in those few days. Wow,
To remember.
what?
Yeah.
That was one day. But
Yeah, it's like 5 weeks and 2 weeks.
and so sometimes just something as simple as figuring out where you're going to have dinner can take you to a whole new part of the city that you never expected, and kind of breaks down. Sometimes it kind of breaks down the walls between tourist and local a little
Yeah,
bit, because
yeah.
people will be more likely to kind of come up and joke around with you and talk to you more like an acquaintance than the tour guide telling you about
Yeah.
and this is this.
And I think if anybody were to consider studying abroad, I would say just do it. Sell your shoes to do it. Anything. I'm so happy that I got to do it and go with a group of students that were just fabulous. Goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao.
So thank you for watching, and travel the world with AUM Study Abroad. Okay. So long, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.
Do the wave, Alexandra.